And you mentioned that this has been a sort of a longstanding issue and a longstanding topic of debate. How do you see this package specifically sort of tackling some of those issues related to management and water? Are those discussions that are happening within? Like, what are those? I guess what I'm asking is, what does that look like, or what will that look like when we get closer to a final package, perhaps?
Well, we've already started on some of these things with the Fix Our Forest Act, which was passed by the House last week. It's a bill I'm a sponsor of that streamlines forest management projects, that tries to curb frivolous litigation, and that seeks in a variety of ways to implement common sense, science-based forest management policies. And we're going to be actively urging California to follow suit when it comes to its own state laws. But the reality of the situation is that there are a lot of ways in which federal and state policy intersect when it comes to forest management and when it comes to water. We've got a lot of land in California that's state-owned, a lot of land that's federally owned. We have water systems that, there's a lot of interplay between what's managed by the state and what's managed by the federal government. And so that gives us a good deal of capacity and even leverage to induce appropriate changes in state law. And so I think that's what you're going to see. In fact, you've already seen it to some extent with the president's executive order, but we're going to be moving very aggressively to use every tool we have at our disposal here, including the tools of oversight. We did a hearing last week shining a light on how California has failed so fundamentally in so many ways. But we're going to use every tool we have to try to protect California's communities from disasters like this happening again, because unfortunately the political leaders in California, like Gavin Newsom, don't seem very interested in that.
You mentioned Gavin Newsom. Funny you bring him up. I was going to ask sort of, how do you see? He was just in D.C. I assume speaking to, I don't know if he spoke to you or not, but speaking to lawmakers sort of about, I assume, California issues largely, but about wildfire recovery. How do you see sort of Governor Gavin Newsom's role in sort of in this appropriations process, or working with him to address these issues? As you've stated previously, he's spearheaded misguided or perhaps inappropriate forest management system. So I'm sort of curious how you see the federal, the Congress's role in working with the governor to get this aid to people.
Well, just to be honest with you, right now, Gavin Newsom is the single biggest obstacle to getting folks relief in Los Angeles. He's more than welcome to come and advocate. That's his prerogative as governor. But the reality is that when he's going around saying, oh no, I've done everything perfectly, I don't deserve any blame for this, I bear no responsibility. California has had perfect water and forest management and fire policies. When he goes around saying those things and refuses to acknowledge any errors, that doesn't create a whole lot of goodwill. That doesn't go over very well here because everyone knows that it is so blatantly untrue and that California has made catastrophic mistakes in these areas. So the governor's refusal to accept any responsibility, I think, does give people around here pause, and it makes it more difficult for me as a California representative to try to advocate to get folks the aid that they need. And then at the same time, Governor Newsom, he's came to D.C. uninvited, but President Trump nevertheless was gracious enough to meet with him. But then what does Newsom do? He flies back to Sacramento. First thing he does is sign legislation to, quote, Trump-proof California, creating a $50 million slush fund for lawsuits against the Trump administration. And so when Gavin Newsom is refusing to accept any responsibility, refusing to commit the state to do better when it comes to fire prevention, and then putting a stick in the eye of the president who was gracious enough to meet with him, that is not helpful in this process of trying to get aid to wildfire victims as quickly as possible.